At the points where a graph changes from increasing to decreasing or vice versa, it has what are called relative maximums and minimums, also known as local maximums and minimums. A function has a relative maximum at a if f of a is greater than f of x for all x around a. A function has a relative minimum at a if f of a is less than f of x for all x around a. In other words, relative maximums are points that are greater than all other points around it, and relative minimums are points that are less than all other points around it. Visually, they are the tops of the hills and bottoms of valleys. Example 2, we're going to find the numbers at which the function has a relative maximum and minimum, and then also state what the relative maximums and minimums are. Okay, so a few things to look for. Visually, maximums are the tops of hills, okay, and they're higher than all the other points around them. Valleys are your relative minimums. They're lower than all the other points around them. Other thing you can visually look for is where does the graph change from increasing to decreasing or change from decreasing to increasing. Okay, so any of those visualizations will help on this. Okay, so here we have a valley, and the bottom of the valley is right here. So that's going to be a relative minimum. Here we have a hill, and the top of the hill is going to be an absolute or a relative maximum. Okay, here we have a valley shape as well, but there is no bottom to this valley because it's flat. Okay, remember relative maximums and minimums are where the graph changes from increasing to decreasing or changes from decreasing to increasing. This is changing from decreasing to constant, so we do not have any relative minimums in this area. So we have a relative minimum and a relative maximum. We're asked for two things. We're asked to say where the relative maximums and minimums occur. That's referring to the x value. We're also asked to say what the relative maximums and minimums are. That's referring to the actual y value. Okay, so we're going to say that there's a relative minimum at x equals -5, and the relative minimum, the y value, is 2. And then the maximum, the relative maximum, happening at x equals -1, and the relative maximum is, the y value is 6. Okay, so we'll say relative minimum at -5, and the relative minimum is 2. Relative maximum at -1, and the relative maximum is 6.